So the start of this year for the Cleveland Browns and Cleveland Browns fans is kind of a weird one, right? To start the year like this with one of the most anticipated, talked about games. I was watching the Chiefs preseason to kind of prepare for, this week's game, and one of the interesting things that I heard when in their broadcast was them talking about how tough this beginning schedule is going to be for the Chiefs and how tough that first game is going to be and how they need to prepare for it. And it's just a weird place to hear tough beginning of the schedule in Cleveland Browns in the same sentence for me. And most anticipated game of week one and the Cleveland Browns. It's still just getting real with me. But for somebody that it's not new to at all, Ryan Tracy, he covers the Kansas City Chiefs. He's one of the best out there. He's been at this, my team's really good game for a little bit of time here. So he's probably a little bit more used to it than I am. Ryan, how you doing, man?
I'm hanging in, man. You're gonna get used to it real quick because it doesn't get old. I'll tell you that. And I've been looking forward to this one for a while too, ever since the playoff game. And I think it's cool that this game's going to get the recognition that it's going to get. I didn't expect that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. I felt like it probably should be because it's Patrick Mahomes, and people want to see how he bounces back with that new offensive line. And then there is some intrigue about the Browns. Also, it's kind of got that divisional rematch thing. So and they had a good enough game last time, I felt like, to where people would kind of want to see it again. Yeah. But it's going to be real interesting just how that's covered, what goes down there, and what the differences are with both teams, because there are, I think, both sides of the ball that are going to be going against each other in this game. They're going to have huge restructures at certain key ports that weren't there last year that kind of contributed to why the game went the way it did on both sides of the ball. For the Browns, that's the secondary. For the Kansas City Chiefs, that's the offensive line. You guys lost a lot of bodies in that game. You lost a lot of bodies against Buffalo. It kind of showed itself in the Super Bowl. And you kind of restructured that whole thing. I believe, if I'm correct, I don't think anybody is returning from last year, right? There's 3 rookies with 3 first-year guys, Joe Thuney and who's the last guy I'm missing out on?
Orlando
Brown Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the Baltimore Ravens. Somebody I'm very familiar with watching him play. So let's just kind of jump into it with the offensive line. New unit there. 3, guys who've never really played significant snaps in NFL. Technically, all 3 rookies because they haven't played or accrued a season yet. Mm-hmm. How are the Chiefs feeling about that offensive line, and how are you feeling about the line?
From all outside appearances, they feel really good about it. I will tell you this, that both the right guard, Trey Smith, and the right tackle, Lucas Niang, won their jobs. Mm-hmm. So that gives you a little bit of confidence there. And they won their jobs over guys that Cleveland saw last time they played. All of the backups. There is one guy that was on the roster. He's going to go to IR, that kind of thing. But their primary 4 backups on the offensive line are all guys who started games in the last 2 seasons for this roster. So it is very clearly a way to say that the level of play has gone up for this unit. But it's just the experience level has gone drastically down. Mm-hmm. So it's difficult. Creed Humphrey was a really high draft pick out of Oklahoma, a guy that comes from a wrestling background, has played center, has made the calls for an up-tempo offense, played with Hurts, played with Kyle Murray. All things that I think lend itself to helping out and getting Patrick squared away. But what we've seen in the preseason has been very, very little in terms of, I think they got a quarter and a drive in the final preseason game. It's just going to be, what can they do when they're faced with a front that A, knows how to attack them from last season, and B, I think really is out to prove something to try to protect that new back end, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one of the most interesting pieces, even though I forgot his name earlier, I don't know how, Orlando Brown Jr. is somebody who's intriguing to me because I remember watching him a lot in Baltimore. I remember I had my doubts when they were going to switch him over to left tackle just because I knew coming out of college, his feet were like slow coming out of college. And that's something that wasn't an issue in Baltimore because they could cover him a little bit better and like give him more chips with the tight ends because they kind of run that. But I noticed with the Kansas City Chiefs, at least what I've seen with them so far, just covering them from last year and this year, they don't really do a ton of, leaving extra guys in. Now, the game plan might be different with Myles Garrett, but I wouldn't imagine you would want to keep Travis Kelce or anybody like that back, just to block. I think that would be a win for the Browns if they were to do that. So with that kind of being one of the concerns with OBJ, Orlando Brown Jr., his foot speed and everything, has that been an issue so far in the preseason, or is that something that it looks like he just kind of left in the past?
I wouldn't say it's been an issue in the preseason in terms of the contests. It's been an issue at practice in camp. When you're going against Chris Jones in particular, it'll reveal some shortcomings that maybe not everybody else can reveal. In fact, one of the things that I'm bolstered by is that they're going to see this front week one, and he's got a lot of experience against Myles, right? So I don't know how often they're going to see each other. I'm actually looking for the Browns to put Myles over on the other side against the rookie Niang, maybe double up in the B gap and try to attack him all day long. That's what's got me, not sleeping that great.
Yeah, they have a bevy of ways, the Browns this year, to kind of go at it, because you got Jadeveon, who you would hope would be healthy week one, who can go inside out. And then, Myles Garrett can go inside out, and he's pretty ridiculous when it comes to his band athletic ability. We all know the things that Myles can do there. But speaking of kind of how the Chiefs do things, right, where they spread the ball out, they want to get the ball to their playmakers, so they don't really leave a lot of guys back. How do you think their game plan changes for that offensive line, especially given the lack of experience for most offensive line, when it comes to kind of adjusting these protections for a guy like Myles Garrett or for somebody like Jadeveon Clowney?
I think you had it right where they don't do a lot of six-man protections. I think they probably will, or at least some like 6 delays is what I'm expecting. They put a lot of effort into getting Noah Gray, their new tight end, up to speed because he's more of an H. And that way you can keep Travis split out. You can put an H in. They really like their fullback, Mike Burton, as well as in an H role as well, where you can get that chip and still get the release and not really dedicate that sixth guy to the protection. And if they do that, I'm still looking for them really a little bit shotgun shy, from the Super Bowl in the deep coverage that they saw. I expect the Browns to do that at the back end as well. So it's about getting the ball out underneath early, hitting that 8 to 10 yard route and getting it out of Patrick's hands. And I think that will be the emphasis. If they can get a little run in there with a line that is, I think, better adapted to running a little bit more man scheme rather than just the outside-inside zone that they've run over the last couple of years, you might see a little bit more run attack as well.
And, the elephant in the room when you talk about the Chiefs offense, obviously they got Tyreek Hill, they got, Travis Kelce. But the thing that really takes it to another level is Patrick Mahomes. I saw a play I think you put up on your Twitter where they did like a kind of a play action reverse, and he jumps out and then sidearms this ball. It's only a play he can do. And it's crazy to think about what he's accomplished so far in his career, just individually, as a teammate, as a quarterback, and as a leader. It's crazy to think that he can get better, but he's extremely young at this point in his career. And he could theoretically get better. Has it looked like he's even, does it look like he's going to take another step? Is that even possible as high in the stratosphere as Patrick Mahomes has played the last few years?
I know it's weird to say, but yeah. Like the increments are smaller now. He went from like 80% to 90% to 95, right? So we're talking 97% or something like that. It's like Madden ratings, but his diagnosis skills he's been working on a lot. And that's honestly, unfortunately for me, because it makes me nervous every time he does it, is he comes up with more of those crazy divert one way, sidearm it here because he can, and because he sees something. He's identifying holes that he thinks he can take advantage of. As long as he doesn't get himself hit, then I'm fine with it. But that's not his MO either. I threw a fit. I think it was the second preseason game when he could have just stepped up into a pocket, delivered a ball, maybe even low to intentionally incomplete it because it's the preseason and it means absolutely nothing. Instead, he peels out, gets out of the pocket, and is running around, getting hit, and just as though he's learned nothing. But that's the instinctual part of Mahomes. And I think that we've seen that part of it, and now it's the cerebral part of, can he diagnose a little bit better? Can he not be confused by what some disguises have given him trouble in the past? Cloud 6 and that kind of thing where the alignments don't necessarily give it away, and you got to look at intentions, you got to look at body mannerisms. I think he's developing some of that a little bit.
Well, that's terrifying.
right?
That's terrifying. Uh, but speaking of the offense, I think one of the parts that's not talked about a lot is the running back position. We know you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We know he's pretty talented, even though I don't think he played when the Browns played them last time. Um, but you kind of had some turnover there. No more Le'Veon Bell. That bridge is closed and gone forever with him and Andy Reid.
Yeah.
So with the running back position, is that looking like an upgrade from last year, or are they looking just about to stay the same with the run game?
I think it's going to be a little bit different flavor. Like they've always tried to platoon and not make one guy have to carry the load. And I think that's definitely the same plan. Clyde, as a rookie, had a couple of spots where he got a little worn down, had some nagging injuries. He looks like he's spent the offseason really working on flexibility and taking care of his soft tissue so that hopefully that won't rear its head again. But they also have Darrell Williams, who I think filled in pretty admirably until he was hurt. Now they have Jerick McKinnon back there. He's their third back. And they're going to rotate. I still expect Clyde to get 65% of the carries, but they're going to rotate on who's able to either hold up and be that sixth guy in protection, or they really like McKinnon out there catching passes, splitting him out. That's the interesting thing that they've even run. And just in case anybody in the organization is watching Cleveland, you're going to see some dual running back sets where they split them all out and go five. So there's a lot of deception there, and the pass catching abilities of McKinnon and Clyde in particular are what's going to allow that to happen.
It's going to be interesting come Sunday. It is going to be an interesting show there. Let's switch gears to the other side of the ball. I was able to watch a good majority of the starters, at least when the Chiefs were out there in the preseason. I was able to catch it, and I noticed that you guys also now have 95 on the edge. And yeah, he looked pretty good on the edge there. Just from the glance that I've seen, you've definitely taken a deeper dive on this. How is Chris Jones looking out there on the edge? As freakishly as he was good in the inside, and we learned that the hard way in Cleveland, how
Right.
good he was on the inside. I think he made one of those plays that actually put the Browns behind the sticks, so they weren't able to drive on the one play after they got the interception. Critical player in that game for y'all. So now that he's going to expand his role, play the edge, how has he looked? Is he handling that well? And how are the Chiefs going to supplement losing what he can do on the inside versus, what he can do now on the outside? How are they planning to kind of replace a little bit of that production?
Well, I don't want to panic everybody, but he looks better on the outside than he did inside. It's creepy. He's down about 18 pounds. He's coming off the ball. He did yoga, hot yoga, evidently, all off season. And I mean, it's not like Miles, it's not like Vaughn, but he's got some bend. It's creepy. Like to see him do that. He's been stammering for this for multiple years. That they've always sprinkled him in. We've always seen him a few snaps every now and then out there, but he's been really pushing for this, and now he's happy. And the only thing that has allowed that to happen, especially with all the hubbub with Frank Clark going on, is that they signed Jarran Reed. And Jarran Reed being able to pass rush from the interior is what's allowing Chris to stay out there. Now, Chris will still come inside at sometimes. They're going to run a NASCAR package as well. You're going to see them move a number of guys all around it to try to create some confusion. But the key is going to be the pass rush of Jarran Reed and supplemented with Tershawn Wharton and Colin Saunders that allows Chris to stay outside, I think, on the bigger downs.
Yeah, definitely there. It's going to be interesting to see how that Browns offensive line holds up against somebody like Chris Jones, because I think one of the things that's going to be interesting, I think they're probably going to line him up against Jedrick Wills a good amount of the time, the rookie there. And just I want to see where his progression is as a tackle, because sometimes he had issues with some of those stronger veterans out there, like most young offensive tackles do. So, it'll be a huge test for him. I mean, he gets tested every day with Miles at practice.
I think he's got somebody to practice against.
So it's going to be interesting to see how he holds up there. One of the things I think is interesting, one of the big differences from, the divisional game to week 1 in 2021 is the presence of one Odell Beckham. I think that's going to dramatically change how the Chiefs are going to have to cover the Cleveland Browns, especially from a pass game perspective. Also knowing that the offensive line is going to be healthy for the Cleveland Browns, and you're going to have a healthy and fresh Chubb and Hunt. You're going to have a fresh Myles Garrett on the other side. But knowing what you're going to be seeing there on the offense and having that additional presence of the Browns having a home run hitter at the wide receiver position now that they didn't have the first time they played you guys last year. How's that change how the Chiefs are going to defend the Cleveland Browns versus how they did it last year?
Last year they were able to stay in their hybrid mentality and really use disguise and really mix it up. Now, I don't think that's the case that they're going to be. They want to get to the point where they can let L'Jarius Sneed, the sensation from last year at corner, kind of travel. Right now, they're lining him up mostly as the nickel. So he'll start on the outside if they're in just a 2-corner set, but he comes into the nickel and then he's replaced on the outside. Depending on what they do with OBJ, and I mean, the set and the stack, I think, is what's going to be important as to who draws who. You're going to see him fall off into more zones, if I understand the way that Spags is going to think about it. You're also going to see them blitz a little bit more in order to try to take some effect out of that. I don't know if it's going to be effective enough, because as they try to stack and do that in ways that can kind of confuse, hopefully, most quarterbacks, I'm not sure Baker's one of them, but it also puts a little bit more stress on what is a new front, kind of trying to learn their spots and where they need to attack. So I'm concerned about that, but I got to tell you, the thing that scares me the most is as much as there are upgrades on the defense, Nick Chubb coming downhill makes me nervous at night.
Yeah, especially fresh, right? That's a whole different game too, right? And, the last game of the year versus the first game of the year, Nick Chubb. Also, Myles Garrett makes a huge difference at the beginning of the season versus what he is because they've given him no help for his first 2 years here. But that's a conversation for another day. So it's just kind of, I know it's early, but if you were Andy Reid, or if you're kind of looking at this from a game plan perspective, how would you think is the best way to kind of attack the Cleveland Browns, or what weaknesses would you try to attack if you're the Kansas City Chiefs to try to secure the victory, in the most efficient way possible?
I mean, the most efficient way is not getting too cute, Week 1 over the years for Andy Reid has had a lot of experimentation, a lot of plays that he's looking to build on later in the season, right? I hope they don't do that, because I think, especially the Chiefs offense going against Cleveland's defense, I think that they're sound in their base enough that you're not going to get away with that kind of thing. So I think it's going to be about going back over the 22 from the preseason, seeing one spot that you can kind of hone in on. I think play action is going to be a big thing. And quite frankly, I think it's going to be trying to do a dose of their own medicine and run the ball a little bit more. This offensive line can help Clyde Edwards-Helaire keep the ball away from them. And if Nick Chubb isn't running at you and you're doing your own thing, you're better off. I don't want them to get to the point where they fall behind. They've been run on, and then they feel like they have to go back to their old antics. So I think that's the key, is maintaining your possession, taking it easy, and not letting it all out of the bag in week 1.
All right, the last question before we head out here. As a Chiefs fan, what is the one thing, if you had to pick one thing about the Cleveland Browns in this game of week 1 that, I don't know if terrifies you is the right word, but that makes you the most, I guess, fearful or get terrified? Let's use terrified.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Knicks won. Obviously, Kareem in a revenge game, but for me, it's Odell with something to prove. Hey, y'all forgot about me. I'm going to come out against these guys that have been in 2 Super Bowls and make a statement. That makes me crazy.
Yeah, hopefully he drives us a little wild there on Sunday, right? Hopefully. Well, I want to thank you for coming on, Ryan. Where can they find you?
My channel is RGR Football. I'm also the host of the Locked On NFL and the Locked On Chiefs podcast. So you can check those out here on YouTube as well.
Guys, check it out. The links are in the description, whether you're a Chiefs fan or not. If you're just a fan of football, you can learn a lot from subscribing to him. I know I do. So check it out down below. And also, I will be popping up on his channel. So if you want to look for that video, make sure you subscribe. But guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.